Okay, so my name is Cathy Cooke, and I'm a board-certified holistic nutritionist and a building biologist. Anybody heard of building biology before? Awesome, great. So building biology is the study of buildings and anything in a building that may cause health symptoms or cause chronic conditions. So as a building biologist, I am assessing homes for air quality. Of course, we think of mold, chemicals, all of this stuff that we've talked about today. And then the EMF side of things. So who here is familiar with EMFs, electromagnetic fields? Okay, so not as many as I had hoped. That's okay. It's, in my experience, this is the missing piece to many, many chronic health conditions. So I'm really happy that we can put this piece in with what all these other experts are saying today. Because if you're doing all of this stuff, what I have found is that if you don't address this piece, you're going to keep spinning your wheels. So of those of you who are familiar with EMFs, are you mitigating your exposure? Okay, a couple, awesome. So thank you so much. So yes, when you can. Oh boy, that's the wrong one. That's okay. Oh, okay. Oh, I have multiple in there, yeah, okay. It's NG EMF is the one that I wanted. For a second, I thought I had the wrong one. Okay.
How do you mitigate it?
I'm going to talk all about that. So this is a huge topic, and I've only got a couple minutes, so I'm going to do my best to give you guys the best information. But of course, I will be here for as long as anybody wants, so I can answer questions. Because again, this is a massive topic. So mitigating EMFs. Well, first of all, who here believes that it is a health problem? Okay, great. And who here does not? Maybe that's okay if you're not on board. There's a lot of people that are not on board. It took me a long time to get on board until I realized my health problems were a big, the EMFs were a big contributor of that. So in the last 100 years, how much of an increase of EMF exposure do you think we've had? 5 times, 10 times? It's a quintillion times. Quintillion times. Because 100 years ago, we didn't have any of this stuff. We didn't have electricity. Yes, a quintillion times. And who has a cell phone? Who keeps it on airplane mode? You will after today. Okay. So a lot of times when I hear people, I'm talking about this topic and they say, well, Cathy, this is pointless because this stuff is everywhere. And there's nothing I can do. And that is 100% false. What you bring into your home is your biggest exposure, and you have control over what you bring into your home. So there may be a cell tower off in the distance, but if you're sleeping next to your Wi-Fi router, which I see all the time, you're getting a much, much bigger exposure from that Wi-Fi router than that antenna that's off in the distance. Okay, so there's a lot of increased awareness about this topic because of 5G, and I'm very happy about that. But I want you to know that that is just the tip of the iceberg. There are 4 frequencies that we are concerned about. So when I'm in a home and I'm doing an assessment, I'm looking at radio frequency, which is 5G, cell towers, your Fitbit, your smart speaker, your cell phone, Wi-Fi router, Bluetooth, all of these things. But there's also the electric fields. So is your bed next to your wall? Most of us are, right? And it's about this level. And what's behind your head right here? All the wires in your walls, right? So you're sleeping in this electric field because those electrons don't stay in the wires. They come out, sometimes 6 to 8 feet. And then we've got magnetic fields, which are things like overhead power lines, big point sources like refrigerators, electrical panels, these kinds of things. And then we have dirty electricity, which practically nobody's heard about, but it's a big deal. And it is something that affects us exponentially, and it's things like CFL light bulbs, LED light bulbs, solar panels, all of these things that we think are awesome because they're great for energy consumption. But when you change that energy, what happens to that electricity? Basically, it comes out into your living space. So these are the fields that I am looking at when I'm doing an assessment. And it's a big, big topic, like I said, so I don't want you to feel overwhelmed, but I just wanted to give you that brief primer. And of course, we're exposed to this stuff more than ever. Diapers, we have smart diapers now. Because how are you supposed to know when to change your kid's diaper if your phone doesn't tell you? Oh, it gets worse. There's smart tampons. I'm not kidding you, because how are you supposed to know when to change your tampon without your phone telling you? There's devices that work on your posture. When you slouch, it tells your phone that you're slouching. There's all kinds of stuff that we put on our bodies that I am horrified by, because it's doing us a lot of damage on a cellular level. I talked about that. So these are just some resources. And again, if anybody wants any of this information, I've got my cards back there, and you can contact me and I will give you all of this information. But how it affects us on a cellular level, I just want to cover that really quickly. So this is the work of Dr. Martin Paul. He's a professor emeritus from Washington State University. He's one of the leading researchers on EMFs. And what he has found is that when our body is in contact with these non-native EMFs, because the Earth has a Schumann resonance, its own electromagnetic field, which is beautiful, that's why we walk barefoot in the grass. We connect to that Schumann resonance. But when we're in contact with these non-native EMFs, it artificially opens the voltage-gated calcium channels. It's voltage, right? Makes sense. And then calcium floods into the cell, and we get this downstream effect of oxidative stress. And what does oxidative stress cause?
Deterioration. Causes your cells to rust like your car.
Causes your cells to rust? That's a great analogy, yeah. And the symptoms that come from that, anything. Pretty much everything. Anything and everything. The biggest symptoms that I see, insomnia and tinnitus are the two biggest I see. People say, actually that's how I got into this field. I had severe tinnitus in only my left ear for over a decade. Couldn't get rid of it, couldn't make any progress on it. I also had severe insomnia, and this topic of EMFs kept coming up, and I was like, that's crazy, woo-woo. I didn't get it, but I became so desperate, I said, okay, I'll do a trial. I put my phone away for a week in a drawer somewhere, and I unplugged my Wi-Fi router, and the tinnitus in my ears went away in 3 days. And I was like, it was such a life-changing experience. I said, I have to know everything there is to know about this. So other symptoms, irritability, also very big. Irritability and anxiety, huge. Pain, depression, headaches, weakness, behavior issues. Hopefully we don't get to the point where it's cancer, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, but there's a lot of research showing the connection between those. And this is just a graph of symptoms as they increase the closer you are to a cell tower. Quickly, I just want to talk about the industry sway and why most of us think that this technology is safe, because most of us do. Because you do your 5-minute Google search and you're like, oh, it's safe. Yeah. Well, you got to understand the enormous financial interest behind the biggest industry of all time, right? There's more cell phones in the world than people, and there's a huge amount of lobbying power that the industry has. And so if you think that when you look at this science that shows that this technology is safe, you've got to understand who funded the research and where this research came from. I've been looking into the research for about 5 years, pretty in depth, and it's the industry funded studies that show that there is no biological impact, and it's the independent research that predominantly says that almost always that there is. So partly how they do that is they're using testing parameters that are really meaningless. They're looking at how much a phone maybe heats your head, but we know that it's not the thermal effect. That's not what is causing this oxidative stress. They're using subjects that are big, robust, healthy men. They're not looking at children or infants or women. They are also, almost all of the tests that the industry has done is on 2G and 3G, not what we're currently using, and not 5G. So it's a mess. So if you do your research online, you really got to know what you're looking at. Okay, so what we all want to know about is 5G. Anybody have a 5G tower near them? Or know what they look like? Yeah, so this is what they look like. This is in Idaho here. So what you see here, these little 3 panels down here, they kind of look like little solar panels. Those are the 5G antennas. And on top of there, that big canister, that's a 4G antenna. So 5G, how it works is it's using millimeter waves, which means that they're smaller waves, but they don't travel as far. And so everybody's freaking out that these millimeter waves are going to, the millimeter waves are going to kill us. I'm not nearly concerned about those millimeter waves as I am this 4G antenna on top because it's closer to your home. Okay, so the whole point of these antennas is that they have to be close enough to your home in order for you to get the 5G signal.
What do you consider close to your home? Yeah.
30 feet
Oh.
on your sidewalk.
Yeah.
So David and I, Mr. DeHaas and I, are in a group called Idahoans for Safe Technology, and we're both on the board. And we've been fighting this fight here in Boise and Meridian, actually the whole Treasure Valley, for, David DeHaas came on, 6-8 months ago. I've been at it for about 1.5 years. So we know, the ordinances that each of the communities have in place. And Meridian's is not good. Boise's is even worse. And in Boise, they can put an antenna up 30 inches from a property.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
And Nampa has a lot, right? Because I've
Yeah.
seen some.
Nampa, I'm not sure about Nampa. I'm not totally clear about what Nampa's got yet. I don't think they have much. Meridian and Boise have the bulk. So these are all over downtown Boise. They're on streetlights. I see them in Meridian on streetlights all the time. But now the applications are in neighborhoods. And I have seen them. There's one 2 blocks from where I live, an application. They're all on corner streetlights, very, very close to homes, within feet of people's homes. So that's what I'm concerned about, is the proximity to your home, right? Okay, so they have to be so close because, again, these 5G millimeter waves, they don't travel very far and they're blocked by trees and building materials. So the end result will be many, many hundreds of these antennas. It has to be in all of our neighborhoods in order for the system to work. There's no point in having one antenna because the intent of 5G is for all of them to connect together. So we're looking at ubiquitous coverage and they're going to be everywhere. So the city of Boise has been very difficult to work with. They refuse to meet with us. All we're really asking for is, hey, can we sit down and have a conversation with you so that we can put a smart ordinance in place. Places like Whitefish, Montana, Petaluma, California, Calabasas, California, they have ordinances in place where the city council and the mayor has said, you know what, we really don't want these next to people's houses. Instead, we're gonna have a 250-foot or a 500-foot or a 1,000-foot setback. So you can have 5G, but you can't have it within this distance of a residential area. And that's all we want. That's what we're asking for, but the city refuses to talk to us.
Really?
Well, I mean, personally, I think that they're good people, but they don't know. They don't understand. And again, this is industry influence here, okay? So the industry is talking to them continually, and they have assured them that they're meeting FCC guidelines, which is actually false. And they have, the industry has assured them that if they try to stop this, that they will get sued, and it will be on, it will be the liability of the taxpayers, which again is false. So they don't know. They don't know. They've been given false information. And so that's what we are trying to clear up. That's what we want to do in talking with them, is to give them this information. So before I end with how to protect yourselves, we do have some action steps for you guys if you want to be involved. I appealed that tower that's 2 blocks from my house. It went through a planning and zoning commission hearing a month ago and they denied it. And so on November 17th is our chance to get in front of the city council, which is great. And, we would love for people to show up to that meeting. And then I've also got some email action steps that you can send to the city council. So I have a sign-up sheet in the back. If anybody would like to be involved with that, you can put your name down and I will give you the information on how to be involved in that. Because if we are not successful with this appeal, I'm very nervous about what our neighborhoods are gonna look like soon. There's already over 350 approved applications in Boise, at least. So it's a bummer. So anyway, on a lighter note, how do you protect yourselves? So again, everybody's always telling me I can't do anything. Well, don't do this, okay? Please do not do this. This picture really frightens me because it's so cute and adorable, yet, I mean, you might as well put a cigarette in her mouth, right? Like, what's the difference? So for each of the 4 fields, there are different mitigation strategies. For your radio frequency, you can use a landline. They work, right? You can keep your phone in airplane mode when you don't need it. This is one of the best things you can do. I have a cell phone begrudgingly because I travel a lot and I'm on the road a lot doing assessments. So sometimes I have to have one. It is in airplane mode 99% of the time. I check my messages once or twice a day. If I have to make a call, I'll use a landline. So it's really not that inconvenient for me. And the biggest thing you can do immediately is hardwire your internet connection. Okay, that is the biggest thing that you can do to reduce your exposure. None of us need Wi-Fi. It was only a short couple of years ago that all of us plugged our computers in, right? We can still do that. I've got 7 devices in my house that are hardwired and it's no big deal. I'm still alive and I'm still living a healthy life even though I have a wire to my computer, right? So that will be the biggest thing you can do to reduce your exposure. As far as these other fields, you know, really the best thing you can do, unplug anything that you don't need to use. Things like a printer. If I turned my meter on right now and that printer was on, this meter would go off the charts. I walk into houses every week where the printers are on 24/7 and they're blasting all the people in the house for no reason. Just turn it off. Unplug it. It's no big deal.
Regular printers or the Wi-Fi printers?
Well, Wi-Fi printers, there's not a whole, I mean, if you have an old printer with no Wi-Fi, awesome. It's very rare that I find that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, most of them do. Most of them do.
I have a question.
Yes.
So if you have one of those surge protectors or power strips, can you click it off
Yep.
there?
That's a beautiful thing to do. Power strips are
That's more
fantastic.
convenient. than
Yeah, it's
getting
more
down.
convenient. Yeah, absolutely. And it kills everything that's on that power strip. And it saves you money, too. Those are great. Be aware of all this stuff that you're bringing into your house. Refrigerators, toasters, stuffed animals. You wouldn't believe the things I find in people's houses, and they have no idea they're there. It took me an hour the other day to find a stuffed animal in a child's house because I couldn't figure out where this frequency was coming from. Grills, water softeners. I mean, almost everything has a radio frequency these days for no reason. So be aware of the new things that you're buying. I'm not a fan of Fitbits, fitness trackers, all that stuff. I mean, I can't wrap my mind around the fact that I have a health device that's putting radiation onto my body, right? And I had a picture earlier of a girl that was in one of my classes recently that has this big old burn.
I saw that.
Yeah, that was from a Fitbit. So be aware of that kind of stuff.
Thank you for mentioning that. I try not to say it to people when I'm adjusting them, but when I see any Apple phone or one of those,
Yeah.
I'm trying to not say too much because you just don't know, but now that you know, I'm gonna say, take that thing. By the way, just like when I smell perfume on you or cologne, I'm gonna be very honest with you. I'm gonna say, you're causing me to have a migraine because those are toxins. But I mean, it's just like things like that sometimes I bite my tongue, like they're not gonna.
Yeah.
But now you know, it's not my
Absolutely.
tongue.
And then, finally, if you have an assessment, that helps to get deeper because, I could spend 3 hours of assessment, I could spend 2 days, tracking down current on a water pipe or, all of this, we get really deep in the dirty electricity and all of these more advanced, complicated things. But, that's down the line. Right now, you got to take care of what's in your house, your Wi-Fi router, your phones, because that really, really is going to be an exponential improvement. And then again, all of the things we've already talked about, all the things our experts have already said.
Houses and go test them?
Yes.
Okay, because that's what she was talking about, dirty electricity. There's things, there's gadgets that you can use to calm that down, but
Yep.
you're gonna talk about you going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. So, all the things we've already talked about have to be managed as well. And then, I like to end with one of these slides because everybody asks me about this all the time. Chips and pendants and harmonizers and all of these things. I'm not against them. But it's just, if you want to spend your money to try, sure, it's your money. I don't endorse any of them because if I have my meter here, let's see what's going on in this environment right now. So that the sound of this meter tells me what the exposure is. That's mostly a cell tower, which doesn't surprise me because there's one right over there. So I hear a cell tower and I hear phones. Those are the big ones. So that's what we're exposed to right now. If you have a chip on your phone, my meter does not change. It does nothing. The numbers are still there, the frequencies are still there. So I can't scientifically verify that that harmonizer is doing anything for you. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's not, but we just don't have any way to know for sure. So I'm not comfortable saying, yes, use that chip, spend your money on it, and it's gonna protect you, because I can't say that that's gonna happen. It may improve your symptoms, and that's great. But the other piece of that that really bothers me is if we all put chips on our phones and then continue to use our phones 24 hours a day, what does that do? It creates more demand. Now we have 5G. What about your pets? What about the birds? What about the bees? You know, I mean, it's not, we have to think about it holistically. So again, if you want to spend your money on these, fine, but I can't really guarantee that they do anything. And this is just a video of Dr. Klinghardt, who's talking about, basically they did an experiment with a bunch of chickens. They had a chicken coop that was very high in EMFs. They put a harmonizer device in there, and all of the chickens were like, oh, I feel so much better, and they're hanging out by the EMF sources. But there was a couple of chickens that wouldn't go near it, and they kind of hung back towards the corner. And the chickens that thought everything was great ended up dying prematurely, and the chickens who were trying to get away from the EMF source lived significantly longer. So the takeaway of that is it may improve your symptoms. It doesn't mean it's improving the oxidative stress that's happening. So, I know we don't have a lot of time and we want to get to questions and all that. So yes, I do go into people's homes, and as we have questions, and I'll hang out if you guys want to talk about any of that. And I realize that was a lot of information in a short amount of time, so thank you for hanging in there.